Hello. Oh, excellent. I'm glad that worked.
Greetings to whoever is tuned in right now. This is the Jimmy Zest show, hosted by me, yours truly, Jimmy Zest. Today we are glad to have author JJ Carpenter. JJ, you allow me to give our dear listeners a brief background about you.
Wonderful.
JJ is the author of Australian historical thriller paranormal horror series, The Corner of a High, book 1 of which was released worldwide on 4th May 2024. She has been writing books since she was 6 years old, a collection of cookie tales she would step together and hide in a shoebox under her bed. That's funny. First love of all things creepy, supernatural, and the world has never left her. Welcome, JJ, to the Jimmy Zest show. We are really happy to have you. Thank you for securing some time. Come and share with us about your works. I know it's a busy time for you right now since you are preparing for your book 2 in the Corner of a High. Congratulations, mate. This particular one is The Road. I think it's the title.
That's right. Book number 2, which is called The Road.
Believe me, JJ, I've got a very good number of feedback from the people who have been reading the book, from all our followers, all our listeners, and they really love the book. But before we go deep in there, I would like you to introduce yourself to those who will be following the discussion on the Jimmy Zest show. Welcome.
Happy to. So my name is JJ Carpenter, and as Jimmy said, I'm from Australia. I'm speaking to you from the very cold Canberra. It's winter here at the moment, and it's absolutely freezing. So I was born in Canberra, and I've grown up in South Australia, here in Australia. Spent a lot of time in the South Pacific as well, living in Solomon Islands and Vanuatu, spending time in Fiji. So very much an Oceania girl down here, and I've been writing since I was, 6 years old. I've been telling stories, my mum will say, as soon as I was born. This is the first time to publish, so I'm thrilled that these series mean a lot to me. They've been a long time coming, and not the first books I've written, but the first ones I was ready to share with the world.
Oh, I read from your biography that you started writing as early as 6, then you released your first book, your first novel at 12.
That's right. I was 12 years old. I loved my, this is going to make me sound like a nerd, my English classes. And my year 7 English teacher really inspired me. And we had to write a short story for school. And I couldn't. My story was too long. I just couldn't finish it. And my teacher said to me, "Why don't you turn it into a novel?" And I just kept on writing. Sometimes you just need a good teacher to open your horizons and make you realize you can do good things.
Most definitely. Now you see we are having a remarkable author on the show. For sure, I appreciate your storytelling. I appreciate book 1. I got a glimpse on that. Book 1 was a good one. And we are looking forward to book 2. And we expect a lot. I know it's not only me, but many readers still they are waiting for the same thing. We want to see where Charlie, what happens. Is this your first published book? Am I right? For sure, what you have so far given the world is amazing. And we expect a lot.
It is. It's my first published work.
Surely, let the world wait for more stories, more ideas to what you'll be giving the world.
That's right, yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, I have lots of ideas, and I've written several books that need a bit of work if I ever was to publish them. But yes, there's plenty more to come.
All right. To our dear listeners and viewers, you should be loving this conversation, this discussion. No worries, you can be part of this amazing discussion by giving us a comment anywhere you are watching from, and you share with us your thoughts right now on the Jimmy Zest show. I'm Jimmy Zest. I'm still taking you through. I'm with JJ Carpenter, an amazing author, I have to say. JJ, back to the book. I will start from where we stopped. I believe The Corner of a High is like your debut work. To someone outside there who is getting to hear about the book and you as an author for the first time, briefly talk about the book
Very,
right now.
very happy to. So, like, I like to tell people that The Corner of Her Eye is an Australian ghost story grounded in real Australian history. So it follows a main character, Charlie White, middle-aged woman, really successful, and then she had some trauma in her life which turns everything upside down. She ends up leaving Sydney, which is, I'm sure everyone's heard of Sydney in Australia, one of our biggest cities. And she runs away.
Oh, I know Sydney
Yeah,
and
sorry.
Melbourne. Yeah.
Yes, everybody knows Sydney and Melbourne. Canberra is the capital of Australia, that nobody knows that, but that's an interesting fact. So
You have just filled a
yes,
gap in my
everyone thinks
knowledge.
it's Sydney. I could tell you a lot of history about Australia. So Canberra was created as our capital city because Melbourne and Sydney were fighting over who got to be the capital, and they couldn't decide. So they put a little pin in the middle, called it Canberra, and said that's the capital. So that's where I'm living right now.
Indeed, I had no idea about that. I had no idea about that. I only knew about Melbourne, Sydney, Perth, those areas. But now I know that.
All over Australia, and that's partly why I wrote this book. So good old Charlie White, she ends up moving to a remote rural town in Australia, all on her own, struggling with all of her life changing, and then to top things off, her cottage is haunted. And so the story is about her not just processing all the change in her own life, finding new friends, figuring out what comes next for her, but it's why is her house haunted? Who even knew ghosts existed? And how can she help this person? And in doing so, she actually learns quite a lot about what Australia was like in the 1930s, which is when we had the Great Depression. So I love sharing little bits and pieces about Australian history through the book, but it's also a good ghost story too. And Australia has quite a few good ghost stories. Not many people know, but got lots of ghosts over here.
When you talk about that, it reminds me of COVID-19. I wanted to ask you before we could go further, if you had to look at your works, how do you categorize your works? Which genre? Is it historical fiction, horror, or...
That's a really good question. And when I went into this, I thought that I was a supernatural thriller author or a historical thriller. But a lot of my readers are coming from the horror readers. So they've described me as cozy horror, which I quite like. So you're not going to get lots of blood and gore, but it's just something that, hardcore horror readers might read to have a little bit of a break from all the slasher that they're reading.
Oh, then this one takes me to the other part. How are you getting the reviews? How are the reviews? How are the readers responding to you? And even the other question, as a writer, how are you dealing with the one-star reviews? I believe as a person, you have got some good ones, some good
Yes,
reviews.
there's so many good ones.
Oh, that's amazing. If you are getting some good reviews, there is that feeling that you get as a writer when people are responding very well to your works. But then the other intimidating part is when you get that one-star review, when you get that notification that there is a one-star review. What comes into your mind as a person, as a writer? What do you think? For one, I got to read the book. However, I have not yet given in my review, and probably I'll give it to you.
That's right.
For book one, and I can't wait to get book two, read it, then share my thoughts with you. But still, I hope the feedback is good, because for me, the people who recommended this, and they recommended this book, we have our readers book clubs, they recommended this book, and I was like, I need to check you out and bring you to the show so that we can have you. Talk to me about that.
Yes. I have been so, if any of my readers are listening and they've written the reviews, I just want to say thank you, because I do read all of my reviews. I have other authors tell me never read all the reviews, but I love it. I love hearing what people think about the book, and I love that everybody thinks different things. And every single one of my characters, somebody's told me it's their favorite character in the book. And I love that, because when a book can be a favorite or something that someone loves for so many different reasons, I feel like that's what we do as authors. We just want people to be able to find something in the book, no matter who they are and where they've come from. Yes, and book 2, there's an advanced reader team which has started doing some of the reviews. And, as an author, you get a little bit scared when you're putting your second book out and everyone's loved the first one, because you want to make sure that they love the second one as well. And I'm so happy and so relieved that the reviews coming through are great. People are loving it. As my blurb hints and as some of the reviews are saying, you really get to learn a lot more about Charlie, about purgatory as well, and how she's having to grapple with her new role as keeper. And it is just the beginning, so you get to learn a lot more about, I said in one of the blurbs too, not just who else is in purgatory, but what else as well. We get to see a little bit of a glimpse into some of the spirits that maybe aren't human.
Then it has just got more interesting. Back in a book, that is book 1, we see Charlie White. She thought, after accepting her fate as a keeper of purgatory, her story would conclude. But now, according to what you're saying, we are just waiting for more things, more thrilling things. And we can't wait. That's all I will be telling you every time. I want to see what happens after accepting her fate as a keeper of purgatory. My favorite line is, everyone dies, but what happens if you are not ready when it's your turn? I should say your books are relatable, your stories are relatable, and that's the reason why readers have appreciated your work. They have found your works relatable with what happens. These are questions we ask ourselves every day.
I completely agree.
In our thoughts, but
I think
usually.
A lot of us, this is another reason why I wrote the book. And I have friends and family who say to me, why would you write a horror book? And that's awful. Oh, it's not though, because there's all sorts of horror. And I like to say the reason I've written these books is it's a safe space for readers to come face to face with things that might be a little bit scary or a little bit traumatic, and to really process them and think about them in a safe space. And a lot of things that scare us is, what does happen when we die? What if I'm not ready? What if I haven't done everything I'm meant to in my life? And it is something that, even if we don't want to think about it very often, we have to think about it sometime, because people we know do pass away.
Talking about purgatory, this gets me to your latest poem, That's Haunted. I got read the poem before I came to the show, and trust me, I felt the poem to be relatable to me, and this continues to explain why I was saying that your works are relatable to your readers.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad you like the poem. And when I was writing the book, I just thought to myself, and I spoke to my sister a lot. If you listen to any of my other interviews, I talk about my sister all the time, because she listens to all of my books and she's the first one to hear them. And I said to her, I want this book to be for everybody, whether you believe in an afterlife or religious or you're not. I actually spent a lot of time looking into cultures and religions all around the world and think about death and purgatory. And I just was fascinated that there's a lot of similarities across the world in how people describe this sort of, I called it a waiting place. And so I really hope it speaks to everyone, no matter where they are in the world, and that they can at least think about, well, maybe what does come next. And I think one of the lines that I say a lot in my book is, nobody knows, not even Charlie White.
Now that takes me to The Keeper, book 1. First time Charlie White nearly dies, life doesn't flash before her eyes. She soon realizes purgatory is all too real and she's not only its resident. You see, now this is reality. This takes me to reality. things that we normally hide from, that we pretend not to be thinking about, but yet they are dwelling deep in our heads.
No, it happens at weird times.
Now that makes it even more relatable to today's life, to the reader's life. It makes it more relatable. Questions like, will I be remembered when I die? What happens when I go? These are the questions.
I remember writing a little bit about Charlie when she was struggling with the fact that she'd left her job as a lawyer. And there was a couple of lines in there where she says, no one's really going to remember what I did. Even when I made an impact on the world, no one will remember that it was me. And I think there's, over 8 billion people in the world now. And as humans, we're driven to make an impact. And what I think is really special is the personal connection we have with our friends and our family and the others around us. And so that's what I'm really celebrating in the book, and what I'm really passionate about as well, those personal histories, because life is beautiful and meaningful, not by what is necessarily in the history books or on the news, but in the people around us, what I believe anyway. So yeah, it's something I'm very happy to celebrate in the book.
All right, JJ. As a writer, there is a point when you start writing, then there is that one point when you realize that it's time to start writing professionally. I believe you also have that one point in life when you're like, okay, I'm writing professionally. If you are to share with someone who is listening to us right now, what was that time when you realized you were going to start writing professionally?
So that's a really good question. And actually, lots of people sometimes who want to write ask me about it. And for me, I delayed a long time because I was always encouraged to get a job that would put food on the table. And everyone would say, writing's not a real job. And so I had publishing offers when I was a teenager. I think my first publishing offer, I had it when I was 14. And I never did it. And I had an agent when I was 19, a literary agent, and I gave them up too, because when you're young and everyone's telling you that it's not a real job unless you're a lawyer or a doctor or whatever it is, you listen a bit more than when you grow up and you get more stubborn. And so I recently lived in Solomon Islands in the South Pacific, and I had my family there, and we were there during COVID, and we were there during the rioting, and there during a really nasty earthquake. And so it was really tough. People we knew were dying, and particularly during COVID, lots more people died than were reported, and it was just such a tough time. And we came home to Australia, and I remember it was sort of like, people talk about those turning point moments where my husband and I said, well, what's important? No, we did this big move. It was for work, and we thought it would be good for the kids, but made us reassess. And personally, the family is what's most important, so putting that first. But then I asked myself, if there's something I didn't do before I died, then I would always regret never giving it a go. It was the writing. And so it just really sparked it back. And I actually wrote the first draft of book 1 in 6 weeks, which is like a record, I think. Obviously, I then went and edited it, but it was because I was so inspired, and I used it as a bit of therapy, really, for some of the things we'd gone through. And the words just flew out of me. Charlie was a character who kind of arrived fully formed in my head. The others sort of developed a bit more as I was writing the story, but Charlie was always a fully fledged character right from the start. So it was only a year or two ago that it really something that I decided to give my all to.
Guess what? It's Charlie who pushed me to look for you. People were appreciating the story. We're talking about the story, our readers on the blog, and I was pushed to look for you, and we talk about this. Individually, I had to take personal interest in reading the book, and trust me, I read the book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for reading. It makes it all worthwhile.
The characters are captivating. I love the characters. Talk about Charlie White, the main character.
Yes, yeah, I do.
That pushed me, and this entire week I've been following you up. And there is that thing that he usually Facebook posts. I was named among your most engaged followers, and last week I was #1.
Oh, congratulations. Thank you as well.
And guess what? My review is on the way. I will be writing it down there for you. I already following you up on Goodreads. You'll be seeing that in time. I think even this conversation, I need to get it. I will get an article from this conversation.
I'm excited for
other
book 2
reviews
to come
which
out
other
too,
people
and then you can tell
posted
me what
on
you
your
think of the
Goodreads
second
and
one.
on your platforms. Then I'll add them onto the article. Probably it will appear in the column on the magazine. And we need to share with the world your stories. There is a lot of stories that you need to tell the world. The world has to know about you, about the stories that you're telling, because they're incredible and remarkable, and you have a long way to go. At this point in time, JJ, I would want you to talk about the theories you normally do on your Facebook.
Well, when I decided that I was going to publish the book, I'm a researcher by background as well, and I just started finding all of this information that was out there, and there were so many authors who were willing to share their experiences with me, and I learned so much that I'd never known as a reader. You always see authors going on their social media and saying, "Oh, can you please pre-order my book? Can you please review my book?" And it's like, oh, okay, so if I have time. And then when you're an author and you realize how important it is, but nobody really knows. So a lot of people who've liked the book and reached out and, what else can I do aside from leave a review to support an author that I love? And it just got me thinking, well, why don't I share some of the things I've learned? And hopefully it'll help not just the readers, but people who are thinking about writing as well. And I'm very passionate about the writing, so it's a good chance for me to talk about something I love.
The information is important and is useful, especially to a rising writer outside there. People are just beginning off with their journey. They are looking for information, and this information can only not be got online, but also directly from people who are in the system, who are already writing. And I believe it's a great work you are doing down there with those series. How I remember, if I'm to remember the title of the series, how to help your author, for the readers and also for the authors. We are having a similar movement at Bookland, and we are inviting all authors. I'll be sharing with you that we have in the Readers Book Club and also the Authors Book Club.
I love that.
So if you're a reader outside there, you can join in, and I'll share with you the information, JJ, about the club, the Authors Book Club, where you get to share with other like-minded people. That is it.
Definitely will do. And the just by having book clubs, by the way, even with I talk in this series about ways to help your favorite author, which don't cost you any money, and having a book club's a great one. I didn't even talk about that in the series, but just anything that you do to share the love of the book and the love of reading. It's I think I called it, what did I call it? Visibility. Just people knowing that it exists.
I also wanted to ask you another question. How social media has been of help to you, and how it can help a rising author outside there. You can share that information.
Yes, I'm very happy to help, but I'm very new to social media. I've always had a Facebook because I'm a millennial, but I actually created an Instagram just for the books. And the one thing that I've learned the most is that just be genuine and don't, all of those things of like for like, comment for comment, follow me and I'll follow you. You might get a few followers that way, but you don't get engagement because people don't know you. And so the way to build your social media profile is to meet people. Like, it's lovely to meet you and to talk to people, to share your love of reading. So I share my love of other people's books as well. And that's been the way that my social media has grown. It's growing slower maybe than if I went and paid people, which I hate. I don't pay for reviews. I don't pay people for my social media. But I feel like it's so much nicer because I've found a whole community, and I've met so many amazing readers and authors, and supporting each other together. It's actually made it less of a chore.
I believe any author, a rising author who is following us right now, they will use this information and see how also they take on their journey. But still, the other part, I don't remember whether I asked you about the 1-star reviews. How do you deal with that?
I haven't got a 1-star review yet, and I keep waiting for it. I want to see. So I'm really lucky that I've mostly got 4 and 5 stars. I got 1 3-star, and he said, I love everything about the book and I can't wait for the second one. So I'm a bit confused about that one. But my favorite.
You know, the 1-star usually brings heart attack to authors.
Yeah. But the 2-star, I've got 1 2-star. And so this one was from somebody, I don't think she realized what genre my book was. And she said it was too scary. And so I actually loved that. And one of the things that I say in my series is every review can help in its own way. You don't want to be getting mostly bad reviews, but if you get 1 or 2 negative reviews, it still counts to boosting up how many people have seen the book. I still bought the book as well. And it's so hard as an insecure author not to take everything personally. But
not being over-attached to comments, to people's thoughts. You know, I believe every book has an intended audience.
It's like if you were to ask someone, what's your favorite color? And, you know, most people would say primary. And if you said something like, my favorite color is swamp green, and hardly anyone likes that color, but it's what is so exciting about being human beings. Everyone has different opinions. And so if somebody doesn't like my book, it's okay that they have their opinion, and I'll try just to focus on all of the positive reviews instead.
I usually tell it to people every time that it's not good to be over-attached to people's opinions, to people's thoughts. Some people don't understand which audience is intended for a particular book. And if you understand that, then you'll be considerate in your review you get. If you get attached to their opinions and their reviews, their thoughts, it will end up hurting you as a person inside and your mental health. You see, that's all what I'm talking about. Were you saying something?
No, I wasn't. I was just laughing. I laugh a lot.
Right now, time is not in the air side, but I just appreciate the time you have given us. Thank you for coming to the show. Right now, let me use this opportunity to ask you some of the last questions, last but not least. What should your readers worldwide anticipate for this year?
That's a good question. So I promised my readers they wouldn't have to wait long for the first 3 books. The book 2 is coming on the 24th, and my third book is actually going to my editor this month. So you will get book 3 this year. I have 3 books this year, and then I'll be telling everybody towards the end of the year how many books are left. So I'm not one of the authors who doesn't know where the story is going. I've known where the story was going and how it would end since I started writing the book. So it's all planned out. So you can expect the rest of the series coming. I'm also working on a couple of other books right now as well, including one about, it's one of Australia's mental hospitals, which is now abandoned. And I've been interviewing the nurses who used to work there, local historians. So that one's coming within the next 12 months as well, I hope to. So stay tuned.
A lot of books in store. All right, JJ, this brings us to the end of our interview. Thank you for passing by. It has really been an honor having you on the Jimmy Zest show. To whoever has been following this discussion, thank you. I've placed my contacts down there. You'll be messaging me.
Thank you. I'll message you.
All right, folks, thank you for passing by. Give us your comments. I will urge you to go and order The Corner of Her High Book 2. If you haven't read
Thank you
book
so
1,
much, Jimmy.
go back and get book 1. Then you get to support JJ. This interview will be available on YouTube plus Spotify for those who want to listen to the audio.
Thank you,
For
Jimmy.
me and the team, bye bye, JJ. Thank you.